what the heck just happened in New York City, everybody? And I understand for a lot of you, you're going to be saying New York gets what it deserves. This is for, but you got to remember, we got wonderful listeners, including my own family, who are great conservatives, Trump supporters who live in New York and the New York area. They're trying to keep the walls from collapsing and the whole building from falling apart there. You know, they're trying to do what they can. And this is a moment, though, where I have to say a lot of us, especially anyone who's lived in New York for a long period of time, our New York team for the show lives. Some of them even live in the city, certainly live in the New York area. And Clay, this guy Mamdani has won the Democrat primary for the governor of New York. And if you live elsewhere in the country, you may be saying, well, this is New York's problem. It's not my problem. Well, let's just take a step. Let's just put this in a context first. The Democrat Party is in the worst position it's been in my lifetime. I don't think the Democrats have been weaker, looked more feckless, and just completely ineffective than they do right now. There is no messaging. They got nothing really. But there are a lot of Democrats out there still. And the question is, which way will they go as a party? Will they try to become less insane, or are they just going to get even more left wing? In New York, you have a Bernie Sanders AOC style socialist candidate who has now likely put himself as the next mayor of New York. Now, there are some hopes that this will not happen. The hopes are not great, even if they were to happen. We will get into this. But Clay, let's just get your top line reaction here. I mean, I've got the numbers in front of me. 43%, and I know that only 25% of voters in New York even showed up to vote for this, which is abominable. I don't know how anyone can explain that one to me, right? You've got 75% of registered voters in the city don't vote for the mayor, who's going to be, the mayor matters a lot more to people in New York in many ways than the president does. I think they need a little refresher on some recent history here. But Clay, 43% of those who cast ballots went for this Mamdani guy. Cuomo defeated in this one pretty substantially. And now people are wondering what the heck happens if this guy becomes the next mayor of New York.
So, first of all, I was wrong. I thought that Andrew Cuomo would win this race. He had all the money. He had all the support. I'm not saying that I thought Andrew Cuomo was some spectacular candidate, but I think this is a political earthquake for the Democrat Party because we've been waiting for basically 6 months, 7 months, whatever the math is, since we had the election. Trump was won all 50 states, essentially moved further to the right. And our debate, as you just said, Buck, was how will Democrats respond to defeat? Will they decide, hey, we need to recognize that America has overwhelmingly rejected the message that we pushed for 2024? Or will they decide, hey, well, America, we just didn't get our message out well enough. Let's double, triple, quadruple down on left-wing identity politics, crazy town talk. And for at least this Democrat primary in New York City, they quadrupled down on crazy. And, I mean, let me just give you a few of the things. Bill Malugin collected this, and I want to make sure that I get all of these right. So I'm pulling it up on my phone right now. This is what New York City just elected. What this guy ran on is so far left-wing, it's crazy. He has said that he wants to abolish the New York Police Department, replace them with social workers. He has said that he wants to, Buck, abolish prisons, abolish medical bills, ban all guns, end cash bail, decriminalize all drug possession, end sentencing enhancements, end all cooperation with ICE. Also has said that he believes Benjamin Netanyahu, if he comes to New York City, should be arrested for war crimes, and has also advocated for city grocery stores to replace the existing grocery stores because he says food is too expensive and the government should be in charge of providing it on a more affordable basis. These are absolutely crazy town perspectives and positions, and he won an overwhelming, relative to expectation, Democrat Party victory, Buck, despite the fact that he did not have anywhere near the dollars, the money, the organization, or the prime sort of business side support that Andrew Cuomo did.
Now, there's also the rent freeze. Did we mention the rent freeze?
Yeah, I didn't even mention the rent freeze. He also wants to freeze all rent.
He thinks that somehow you will freeze the rents in New York City, but you're going to raise taxes. Is that going to affect people like builders and developers? You're going to raise taxes on companies. You're going to raise taxes on high earners. You're going to freeze the rent, but you're going to increase housing supply 200,000 units in New York City. This guy would not be able to pass the first pop quiz of an Econ 101 high school level class. This guy knows not a damn thing. Now, before we can talk about the policies and what may happen here, what may not happen when they're implemented. But Clay, first up, who is responsible for this? This was very interesting. I know the city by city, the neighborhood by neighborhood, street by street demographics of New York City pretty well. Generally who lives in this area, generally who lives in that area. And there's good data on this that you can see. There are maps up. I mean, even on the front of the New York Times, for example, they have a map up. And when you look at it, what you see is now we're talking about the most diverse city in America and millions of people. But in the broadest strokes, Mamdani's ace up the sleeve in this election, white liberals under 40.
Yeah.
White liberals under 40, a lot of whom are college educated, a lot of whom in New York City live in cool areas where their parents are paying all of their rent while they have creative jobs that don't really pay them very much money. I mean, that's the stereotype, but it's a pretty accurate one when you look at the data on this of who were the main Mamdani supporters. Black and Latino voters in New York City disproportionately or overwhelmingly went for Andrew Cuomo. They looked at this and they were like, all right, I don't want the crazy guy who's saying the crazy things. I want somebody who is going to try to, continue the system pretty much as it is. So I think far more wisdom in that position under the circumstances than certainly what you're seeing for people who live in Williamsburg, downtown Manhattan, Brooklyn Heights. I know, you see the real strongholds. And then some of the very, very diverse areas of Queens, Clay, that have a really large Asian population, South and East Asian populations. Mamdani did very well there. I mean, Matt Walsh shared out this stat. I didn't even know this. I knew it was high, but credit to him for showing everybody that 40% of New Yorkers were born in another country. 40% of New Yorkers were not born in America. That is astonishing.
Look, this is why it's such a big, I think this is a monumental story. And I thought Cuomo would win. I thought there was no way they would let Mamdani win. To be looking at this, first, when I saw all these results coming in, I was betting, Buck, that you are super glad you got out of New York City when you did. And I think there are a lot of people out there listening to us right now. Bill Ackman actually responded to my post last night as these election results came in. And I say this as someone who lives in Tennessee. I know you now live in Florida, Buck. I know a lot of you were monster audience in Texas. If you have wealth, that is, you are paying, 14, 15% tax already in New York City, New York area. And you have the flexibility to be able to leave. Why in the world would you stay in New York? I mean, I just look at this and I say,
jobs and family. I mean, the ties. It's not a question.
You have the flexibility to
right.
Be able
but this is what
leave.
I mean. It's Clay. I think that I'm one of them. The Florida, Texas, Tennessee migration.
No state income tax. It's just simple math. Like I would be out.
Yeah. But again, people are tied there because they have, they have to take care of their mom, or they got grandparents. They want to be near their kids, or they got a job that they won't let them move, and they like their job. And it's moving is not as easy for everybody as they'd like it to be. It depends on what period of life you're in. But the highly mobile, high earners, and I mean, like I said, $14 billion or something like that of revenue has gone to Florida that would have gone to New York post-COVID, just based off of the tax changes.
It doesn't take many super rich guys to decide that they're going to leave New York City, where the budget falls even more apart. And, you know, this is what ends up happening. You end up cycling constantly because as your wealth leaves the city, you have to raise the rates on the remaining people. And eventually the math doesn't add up to provide services. And we've talked about this before. Florida has roughly a similar population to New York City. Florida has half the state budget, and it's much more efficient. Kids are better educated. Schools are newer, nicer. The facilities are better. The government runs more efficiently. Same thing. Tennessee is a fraction of the size of a state like New York. But I'm just telling you, if you have the ability to leave, I would leave. I understand hey, like, we're going to fight to make New York City better and all of these things. If you have the ability to leave, why would you stay with people who hate you, that are driving the city into the dumpster, and when you can go somewhere and save money? Like, it's crazy to me.
My old, what I've been saying on the show about how Florida has half the state budget of the state of New York. And remember, New York City is the overwhelming driver of the state budget for New York. But Florida has a $115 billion budget for the upcoming fiscal year. $115 billion. New York has a $254 billion.
Yeah.
So more than double. More than double. You look at that and you go, it's double plus an extra $20 billion. Just throw it in, because why not? It is madness. And what are you getting for this? And what is the? But I think, unfortunately, Clay, there's also the fact that New York City has now so many illegals. The fact that New York has brought in so many people from around the world who, let's just be honest, are more. You look at a lot of other countries. People want the government to pay for their stuff. People want socialism. It's popular for a reason. It always fails and it's always a lie, but it appeals to people. And so when people bring their politics from elsewhere in the world to New York, this is what you're going to have. So we'll talk about some of these policies and some of what's going on here. And to some of our New York listeners wondering, are you just digging in and you're going to hope? Well, wait, you know what, Clay? There is hope. I'll put this out there. There are other options than Mamdani, but they're long shots. But we will talk. Let's talk about some of these other options here. They're not great.
We'll give people some hope. That's what you want to do. You want to give people in New York
give them a little
hope.
There's not great options, but there are some options. All right, look, the IRS only sends out two kinds of mail. One's a refund check, and that draws a smile. The other's a demand letter, looking for information or unpaid taxes or both. If you're getting these nasty grams from the IRS, these letters that demand back due taxes, let's get that taken care of before it gets worse. Don't ignore the letter, because there's another letter behind that one headed your way. It gets worse if you delay. The IRS will follow through if you don't act by their deadline. So if you're contending with this, I know some of you are, you've probably been putting it off, take action now. Get this done. Get this taken off your plate. Sleep well at night knowing you don't have to think about it anymore. Call the experts at Rush Tax Resolution, 877-554-RUSH. That's 877-554-RUSH. Get a Rush Tax Resolution attorney on your side and get protected today before it's too late. Mention our names and Rush Tax Resolution will do a free IRS transcript investigation. Other firms charge $500 for this without even knowing if they can help you. Rush Tax will only take your case if they know they can help you, period. That number again is 877-554-RUSH. That's 877-554-7874. Or just go to this website, rushtaxresolution.com.